Alright guys, I just got done watching the CM Punk Best in the World DVD, and I thought I'd do a quick video on my thoughts on this DVD, some of the stuff they included, a few things they left out, but overall I really like this DVD. I've seen a good bit of these WWE documentaries, and this is probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. It's just a really great story, and I haven't seen the matches or the extras or anything like that. I typically just watch the documentary parts, but they did a good job with this one, and I have to say that if you're a CM Punk fan, it's a must-have. And it doesn't have any Ring of Honor matches, but they did get footage from Ring of Honor, which was also a must because that's where Punk made his name. So I'm very happy they were able to get that footage. And on to the actual DVD. Starts off talking about CM Punk growing up in Chicago, his dad. Has a lot of interviews by Lars Frederiksen from Rancid, which surprised the hell out of me. I didn't know he was friends with Punk. I didn't know he was such a big wrestling fan. So that was cool. And Punk is talking about how he started in this backyard federation, which drew 900 to 1,000 people. Now that's pretty damn impressive. If those numbers are correct, that is very impressive. I know some indie companies now that wish they could draw that, and Ring of Honor is one of them. So, I don't know about all those numbers, but anyways, Punk actually says that he hasn't talked to his brother in 12 years because apparently they were doing a show for the Backyard Federation. His brother had the money and was supposed to set up the show for him, and he just stole all their money and left. And that's one reason Punk doesn't want to have a relationship with his brother anymore. And it actually shows his time in IWA MidSouth, which was another thing I was kind of surprised at because I know it shows him training with Colt Cabana and how they both worked IWA MidSouth, but IWA MidSouth was known for death matches. And that's how I found out about him. I was a big fan of death matches. I still like death matches. And IWA MidSouth put on the King of the Death matches, which I think they've done every year. This is probably the first year they won't have one. I think there was a couple years they may have skipped early on. But they've had death matches since 1997. But they also had the TPI, the Ted Petty Invitational, where they would just have tournaments with the best workers around on the indies. And Punk did not do the deathmatch style, so he really just made a name for himself doing these just straight-up wrestling matches, and his feud with Chris Hero was very good. So I thought it was great they showed this, but what surprised me about the IWA footage was it showed some of the light tube spots, some of the fire and thumbtack stuff, and I didn't expect them to show any of the hardcore stuff on here. It wasn't a lot or anything, I'm talking maybe 40 seconds, but Punk actually says that he thought he was doing very well, making a name for himself, and thought he was pretty good until he wrestled Eddie Guerrero. And then he realized he wasn't crap yet. It shows his time in Ring of Honor. Punk actually goes and sits in the Ring of Honor ring, and I thought that was cool that they set that up for him and let him do that. The Punk-Raven feud, the Samoa Joe matches, the Summer of Punk, where Punk cut his famous heel promo. He had the Ring of Honor title. Everybody knew he was going to WWE. He signs his WWE contract on the Ring of Honor title. Just great stuff here. Punk's final match against Colt Cabana. And another thing about this DVD is it kind of jumps from where Punk is now, like his tour bus, or his dieting, his juice diet he's taking now, and then it'll cut back to his story, and then it'll cut back to something else. Apparently now CM Punk doesn't eat meat or anything like that, kind of like Daniel Bryan for a while. And then it'll cut back to the story. So that's another thing they kind of skipped around with. And one really weird thing about the DVD is when it first starts, it does this thing where it shows like words when they're talking. Like in the very beginning, Punk's saying like there were all these roadblocks put in front of me. And as he's saying it, it cuts away from him, and it'll just show like a black screen, and it'll say roadblocks were put in front of me, just stuff like that. And at first I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. They're not going to do this the entire time, are they? But no, it's really just the first few minutes of the DVD. So then it shows CM Punk in OVW. Paul Heyman says that Gabe Sapolsky is his protege, and Punk really puts over working with Heyman here. He actually says that the only reason he didn't get repackaged, have to change his name, have to change his look, was because Heyman fought so hard for him. And he actually says he owes his entire career to Paul Heyman 100%. So those are some pretty big words. And no one wanted CM Punk on Raw or SmackDown. So Heyman said they were going to start the new ECW. Let me have him. I'll prove to you guys just how good CM Punk is. And then it shows John Cena, who says he thought he was kind of, I mean, that's what he says. That's basically what he says. He says he kept hearing all these things about CM Punk, and he saw him and he was just, he's alright. I mean, that is what he says in the DVD. And Jim Ross says that Punk was in danger of being future endeavored, but Paul Heyman stood up for him. And, of course, shows an interview with Triple H, who saw all of Punk's potential right away. He had this attitude, this fire. Triple H saw the potential, and I'm just rolling my eyes at this. I couldn't believe it. But I do have to agree with Triple H on one point about his first run with the title, but I'll get to that in a minute. It talks about his feud with John Morrison on ECW. Then it cuts to Punk now at Wizard World, some of the comic book conventions. I thought that was pretty cool to see. And then Punk winning the Money in the Bank and cashing in for his first World Heavyweight title run. And then it shows Punk getting punted in the head by Randy Orton and getting taken out of the scramble match on the pay-per-view. So this is the part where Triple H is saying Punk was the champion, but he wasn't really the champion. He had the belt, but it didn't really change anything for him. And this part of the DVD really goes into detail about this. I thought it was very well done. And Triple H does make sense when he says, and I have to agree, that the title doesn't make the guy better or bigger. It's the guy who makes the title. And you get the title because you're already there. That's why you get it. Because you're already at that level. And I do agree with that. But having Punk taken out of the scramble match by Randy Orton kicking him in the head, and he can't even be in the championship match, that's a burial. That is how you bury somebody. And, I mean, that is just... I do like how they went into so much detail on that. Just the simple fact that Punk was just... That's just how they treated him. Goes into his feud with William Regal, his feud with Jeff Hardy, which they talked about for a good little bit. The feud with Taker, didn't really talk much about that one. Shows Punk's tattoos, Straight Edge Society. And one cool thing about the Straight Edge Society part was Joey Mercury is doing an interview, and he's talking about how when he was in the Straight Edge Society, before he was in the Straight Edge Society, he had a problem with drugs and alcohol, and Punk tried to help him, and he was going to lose his house. And CM Punk bought his house. And Joey Mercury said it was in like the six figures, and Punk bought it so that Joey Mercury would not lose his house. That really impressed me. I mean, you have to respect that. That's a loyal friend right there. So to do that for Joey Mercury, I was very impressed by that. I'm glad they put that on the DVD. And then it talks about the Straight Edge Society, and this was really weird because they're talking about the heat they would get and how people hated them, and they would think CM Punk was the devil at house shows and all this stuff. And as they're saying it, it's like devil, 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 devil. And it's just really bizarre, but that's what they do on the DVD. Very strange. Then it goes to Punk being very unhappy with Miz main eventing WrestleMania. He says he thought he was the best bad guy they had at the time. Miz wasn't better than him. He didn't look better than him. He wasn't a better talker than him. And he could not figure out why Miz was main eventing Mania and Punk wasn't. So Punk, this all leads to Punk getting very frustrated. and eventually the contract coming to an end, and Punk cutting the famous shoot promo. And what he says in the DVD is he was basically told, and I know it's considered the worked shoot, and what he says in the DVD is he was told to go out there and air his grievances, and they show the entire promo, and it really does feel like CM Punk just went out there and said what was on his mind, and it was a great promo. I mean, I enjoyed watching it again. That is one of the greatest moments on Monday Night Raw, in my opinion. I did that video a long time ago where I was talking about some of my favorite Raw moments, and you have to include that one. It was just awesome. And this, of course, leads to the match with Cena, which is considered one of the greatest matches of 2011. A lot of people think it's the best, and it really is one of the best. I'm not sure if I would say it was the best match of 2011, but it was definitely right up there. And not necessarily because of the ring work, but because it just felt so big, with Punk's contract coming to an end, the Chicago crowd being behind CM Punk. Everything about that match just felt huge and really did help make it one of the greatest matches of 2011. And then that's the end of the DVD. It has a tribute by Punk to Andy Kaufman at the end, where he's saying, "What are you guys still doing here? Go home already." And I thought that was pretty cool how he had a little tribute to Andy Kaufman there at the end. But a few things they did leave out. It didn't talk about his time in TNA for obvious reasons. I'm not saying, oh my god, this DVD's horrible. It didn't mention the TNA. I understand that. I mean, and I don't really care either way. He wasn't there very long. But it didn't have that, and it didn't have anything about the new Nexus, which is probably for the best, to be honest. So those are the only two things I can think of that they really left out. So overall, I really did enjoy this DVD, and CM Punk is one of those guys WWE finally seems to be pushing big time, and he's a big player now backstage. I mean, he's gotten away with a lot of crap, and if he did some of the stuff now, back then, they would have already got rid of him years and years ago. And I'm glad that WWE is taking a chance with Punk. The ratings may not be as good, but it's going to pay off in the long run, and that's what's important. And I think that WWE believes that too, that at least I hope they do, that what they're doing with Punk is going to pay off in the future. They could keep doing the same stuff and the whole John Cena thing and just keep the belt on him for 20 runs now. I mean, who knows what it would be. And yeah, the ratings may be where they are and they may stay that way for a while, but that's going to have... Cena's going to get old. I mean, he's not immortal. You have to push new guys. And if the ratings are down a little bit, you just have to persevere and stick with it, and I do think that they will improve. You can't really blame everything on CM Punk. So anyways, about this DVD, I did enjoy it. If you're a fan of CM Punk, definitely check this out. You'll probably love the documentary part. It's got some of these matches with Jeff Hardy. The Morrison match, I believe, is on there. So it is just a great item to have if you're a big fan of it. And if you just like these WWE documentaries, this is one of the best ones to watch. So that's my review of the Best in the World DVD. Hope you guys like this video. Leave your thoughts on this DVD in the comments below, and thanks for watching.